And we got a Patreon listener question here from David Cabal. Once again, if you are interested in asking us a Patreon listener question, just join us on the Patreon. It's a $5 donation minimum, and you'll be able to ask anything you want on the podcast. Try to usually keep it Transformers related, but we also are open to some interesting questions. And here's one example of that. David Cabal, long fan of the podcast, wants to know, outside of Transformers, what other toy lines do you guys like to collect? Oh yeah, the museum that I live in.
What don't you collect? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Every time you're like, oh, I'm looking at this thing. Like, what? I didn't even know. What? Like, that's crazy, man.
So people have usually seen videos and stuff of my house. They've seen the crazy Transformer collection, and that takes up a floor of the house already. It's the entire basement. But the rest of my house, I actually have other rooms dedicated to other things that I collect. Obviously, I have a video game room. I have a manga/comic book library, as I call it. But I also have a lot of other toy lines that I collect. I'm really big. Two things. If I had to sum up what the other stuff is that I usually collect, I'm really big into video game merchandising, figures based off of video game characters, and I'm really big into really terrible 90s toy lines and some 80s toy lines too. So like to like really dive into it, like from the video game side of things, you could tell from my screen name, I really love Mega Man merchandise. Love collecting Mega Man figures of any shape or form, any kind of Mega Man merchandise, little PVC figures, model kits, any of that stuff. I'm all over that. But at the same time, I love any other Nintendo-related video game merchandise. I love collecting vintage Nintendo product, Keshigumus, old Mario PVCs, Legend of Zelda PVCs, Punch-Out. I love video game merchandise in general. Not too long ago, I actually just picked up some old Donkey Kong PVCs carded that I got from a convention. I just really like it's because when you're a video game collector, it's one thing to collect the video games itself, but I also like the merchandising and marketing aspect of the other side of things. It's very fascinating to me. So like the old company Applause that was known for making, like a good example, the old Smurf PVCs back in the day. They were also known for making a lot of video game related merchandise. So they did like a whole bunch of Super Mario ones, and I'm pretty sure some people that are listening know exactly what I'm talking about, those old PVCs of Mario throwing holding a hammer or throwing a fireball or riding a Koopa Troopa or Princess Toadstool's first figure before she was called Princess Peach. I love collecting that stuff. The flip side of it, going to the 90s stuff, I love weird 90s toy lines. Biker Mice from Mars, Street Sharks, King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, Cowboys of Moo Mesa, Mummies Alive, Bots Master. Love my Bots Master. Cops, fighting crime in a future time. Shadow Raiders, also known as War Planets. Reboot. I love short run, small, fascinating 90s toy lines. And I know I'm forgetting stuff, but I love those. Obviously, what falls into that is the big name toy lines. Does Proto Man collect Ninja Turtles? Of course he does. But what I love collecting of Ninja Turtles, the Japanese side of stuff. All the weird Japanese Ninja Turtle stuff. And yes, there's a lot of weird Japanese Ninja Turtle stuff. One of the best sewer play sets that we never got came from Japan, which is crazy. And there's not a lot of good images of it online, but I own one, and I've always said I should do a really good photo shoot of it one day. But there's a lot of cool Ninja Turtle stuff. I also like just collecting, certain stuff related to Japanese culture stuff that I like in terms of Japanese release stuff. So to give an example, I love all kinds of the anime stuff that I collect. Kinnikuman, Man, also known as Muscle. Love collecting figures of that. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, specific characters from that. I love Initial D, which is a racing anime. So all the die-cast cars and the figures related to that and stuff, and the drivers. When you go to more of the Toku side of stuff, so I love Ultraman. I love Ultraman 7. Ultraman is always been a big part of my childhood, also because of my father. Yeah. So I have a lot of Ultraman-related merchandise and the other Toku stuff related to it. Kamen Rider, Power Rangers, also known as Sentai. I have little collections of that, but Ultraman probably is the majority of it. And then when you kind of dive more into that, little things here and there. I get little, sometimes I just get one character to represent stuff. Like I have a pretty decent sized Speed Racer collection, but that stems more from my love of race cars and stuff like that. And the only other thing I could really mention, if I'm not forgetting anything, and I know I'm probably forgetting something, is I have a pretty sizable wrestling action figure collection.
Oh yeah, that's true. You started getting into that.
Yeah. I started.
Are you gonna mention the other side of that wrestling thing?
Which would be, I don't know what you're talking
customizing.
Oh yeah, well I'll get into that
Okay,
after.
Cool.
So like ever since I was a child, some of the first toys I ever had were the old LJN WWF wrestling figures.
The Killer Man figures.
Yeah, the giant rubber. If you whipped it at your brother or sister, you probably probably could have went to jail for.
Yeah. Get to go to juvie for that.
I've had those my whole life. I had a whole bunch of them growing up. My parents used to get them because my uncle used to have a deal with Galoob and LJN because he was working for the shipping company. So I had a lot of those growing up. And as a result, every time when I get a chance, I try to pick up figures of some of my favorite wrestlers and any versions of that. Like number one, Bret Hart. Bret Hart's always been my favorite wrestler of all time. So I always try to go out of my way to pick up merchandise or action figures of him. But anyone from that Hart, Stampede stable, British Bulldog, Brian Pillman, Owen Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Mm-hmm.
But also I like to pick up certain characters from other eras. I love The Rock. The Rock was always a favorite of mine. John Morrison from the more ruthless aggression era. I like him too. I pick up specific, just like one, best version of said character here to have that. But then what I also do, and what Wendell was bringing up before, Jaws D, is sometimes there's characters that don't have representations of specific versions of themselves in figural form. So to give one example, what he was mentioning, at one point, Bret Hart was the leader of the NWO. This was like when Hogan was gone, and it was him, Kevin Nash, Jeff Jarrett. And so they never made a Bret Hart NWO figure. And so it's pretty much me. I track down a cheap Scott Hall wearing an NWO shirt, pop his head off, change the arms, slap a Bret Hart 1994 head on it, and, get one of the Bella Twins baseball caps, put that on him backwards, give him the, little things here and there, give him some aviator shades. Like if you type NWO Bret Hart, there's a picture of him wearing everything that I just said, holding the world championship. And that's like the quintessential NWO Bret Hart photo. So I pretty much tried to mimic that and make customs. My next one that I'm trying to do an NWO Virgil, which I'm having a hell of a time because it's hard to find NWO characters that have black arms because you have the paint of the shirt, because we have only what the problem is. Kevin Nash, he has his tattoo, so that cuts that out right away. And then all you have is pretty much Scott Hall and Hogan and stuff, and they're too white, so one day I feel I'm gonna get my opportunity. Maybe we'll get a Booker T or something, and then we'll take it from there. But also, I also want to do one day a Bret Hart Hall of Fame figure, because they released a Bruno Sammartino that comes with a stand, a base, the Hall of Fame, like when you do your speech.
Yeah.
And it comes with the plaque and everything. So here's me trying to track down a JBL in a suit figure to put old man Bret Hart's head on it, because they made an old.
Oh, so that's the new project now. That's the new project.
Yeah, that's the new one I'm trying to figure out. And because I want to have like a little DTOF display.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, DTOFs are like the cheap IKEA glass displays. I want to have one in the living room that has like all the classic Bret Hart moments in his career.
Are you gonna put the Bret Hart DVDs, the documentaries, in that case as well, or
I don't know
it's just the toys and that's it? It's like, is it gonna be your little shrine, or just the toys and that's it? What's the end goal here?
Well, the end goal I don't know yet, because who knows what they have planned.
Because you're still going.
They just announced recently the Bret Hart Ultimate Edition figure, which is like now they're going to be doing like something similar to Figma and Figure Arts.
Oh,
so they're gonna, they announced Bret Hart, Ronda Rousey, Ultimate Warrior, and I believe Shinsuke Nakamura. They just announced these as of like 2 days ago of this recording, and they look really cool. And so I'm like, oh man, they're investing in this guy. That's the one thing I love about being a wrestling fan, is that People who haven't wrestled for like 25 years are still getting new merchandise in Walmart.
Yeah.
You know, which is pretty cool when you think about it. So yeah, that's one of the other things also I collect. I know I must be forgetting something. There's so many wacky toy lines I collect. I mean, Marvel and DC, I get this and that. You know, every time there's a cool Thanos figure or a cool Wolverine, or, you know, like I love, you know, the funny thing is, like, I love Miss Marvel, not so much Captain Marvel, but I love Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, so I pick up all her stuff. Huntress from the DC side of things, Nightwing, Dick Grayson. I love Captain America. I love the old school Cap. I love the Ultimate 616. I love all those different versions of Cap. You know, there's so many. Like, anyone who's seen my house, it's a lot to take in. There's a lot of stuff, but I'm a big geek of geek culture. I've always been, and I mean, I've totally forgot the Gundam model kits.
Oh, really?
You know? Like,
I was like, I wrote that down on my list, and I'm like, okay, I'm good.
I was like, yeah, there's just, you know what? You're going to be going through your list, and I'm going to be like, damn.
Yeah.
You know? Anyways, take it away. I've talked too much.
So me, my other tastes go into Lego, but it's not all Lego. I find myself really leaning towards, specifically now, anything that's like mech related. So there was an exosuit that came out maybe a few years ago, and I found it and I hunted it down. I got it. It was part of their Lego Ideas line. There's also.
But you're also a very Technic guy too.
Yeah, I dig the really, like, oh, this is how you make an engine. Oh, really? That's how the engine. You know. So Technics I usually go for. The championship series right now with their cars, with the little minifigs. Those I really dig.
The theme, championship theme series, you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I think my next crazy purchase I might do, I'm on the fence. I'm like, you know, I can't just go out and splurge, is they recently announced a Ford Mustang, and like you could put a hood scoop on it. You could put an intake scoop on it. You could put spoilers on it. Like, you could do all this crazy stuff with it, and it's pretty pricey. But again, it's like another Lego Technic kind of thing, like upper
engineering.
Yeah, upper
much.
end kind of thing. And what else? The other stuff I have? I think I have the Caterham one. That's part of that line. I also have the Porsche 911 I got a hold of, like, luckily through a friend. Another one I got was the...
Did you get something through me too? I'm having a vague memory of that.
Yeah. What was it again? Crap.
Long story short, I ended up with a humongous Lego collection that I'm not a huge Lego guy, but I ended up with it.
Yeah.
And so slowly I've been selling it. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, like, I kind of help you build it and make sure everything's there.
Yeah,
because
what a
I
mess.
inherited, well, not inherit, but like somebody was giving away their son's Lego set, and a lot of the set that Proto Man had that he was getting, a lot of my stuff was in there. A lot of stuff I owned was in there.
A lot of late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, and still own. So I was able to, like, oh, this is that, and this is, and he's like, oh, crap, and you know, everyone's just kind of helping him piece it together. So Lego, I really got into Mega Bloks specifically because of their minifigs, because they're super articulated. They're like mini G.I. Joes almost, you know, kind of thing going on with them.
Yeah, a lot of articulation for a minifig.
And they had a line with Call of Duty specifically, so like Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, and to give a little shout out to Quantumus Prime. He was telling me about customizing the Mega Bloks minifigs to make them look like G.I. Joes. That's like a whole other subsection of fans. And to me, it's a little bit sad that Hasbro's not tapping Mega Bloks to be like, yeah, we could just kind of rest G.I. Joe in here, and then you can make sets that are basically all the vehicles from G.I. Joe.
And it's funny because they tried to do a Creo and it bombed.
Yeah,
like
it
they tried to do G.I. Joe Creos and it didn't connect with people. So but I do agree, like the Mega Bloks, they find success.
Yeah.
You know, they, like, especially when they did their TMNT stuff.
Yeah, so that was another thing I got. TMNT, they did Assassin's Creed. I got mostly for the minifigs, these ones. And then specifically for the Call of Duty ones, I was getting for the military vehicles. They had helicopters, they had Humvees, they had motorcycles. They were all really cool, and they worked really well with the minifigs that they had. I know with Mega Bloks right now, I think the line they have is they have Star Trek, they have Destiny, they have He-Man.
That's recent. Yeah,
that was very, very, like, these are very recent ones. They also had
Futurama.
They have Futurama. They also have Aliens. Some time ago, they had the license for what was it? Terminator. They had the license for, so they had like a lot of minifigs and sets for that.
They have a pretty extensive Power Ranger line too, actually.
Yeah.
Dating all the way back to, I want to say, Deca Ranger, even, which is SPD.
Oh, okay.
It goes pretty far back with them. Actually, I think it goes even more far back than that. I think it goes to, oh my God, what was it called? Ninkanger, which was Ninja Storm, I think. But
and also they have Pokemon too.
They have the Pokemon brand.
Those are really
you're
nice.
Right.
Those are
really
nice.
I actually have the Magikarp of that. That's actually pretty cool. Those. Yeah.
What else? I know.
That's the video game merchandise size of me.
Yeah.
Oh man, gotta get that.
The Ninja Turtles one, they had like their big set piece was the Technodrome.
Oh, that thing was amazing.
And
that thing was like as big as the original Technodrome toy from back in the day.
So
that
crazy.
Thing is massive.
And I think what's supposed to happen with the He-Man line is the Castle Greyskull, because I remember at a toy fair they actually showed off a built Castle Greyskull with He-Man sitting on Battle Cat, aka Cringer, but I don't think that's hit market yet. I think that's like supposed to be like their big last one, and it looks like it's made out of like actual pieces. At least the outside of it looks pretty crazy. What else do I collect here? Also sometimes video game figures. So that would be Street Fighter. I'm trying to remember the first line of really good articulated Street Fighter toys. I don't remember if you remember.
So, yeah, I actually collect those too. That falls into that video game category. Well, when you're talking Street Fighter, it first started with Hasbro's G.I. Joe Street Fighters, but you're not referring to those. The ones you're referring to, the very first decent articulated ones there was a company called Resource, and I remember I got you Ryu from that.
No, not that one.
So then the second one is Sota.
Yeah, there you go. The Sota figures. The Sota figures one. So I didn't like go crazy with collecting everybody, but I did get a Gen, because Gen I was using a lot in Street Fighter Alpha 3, and is it Jaggy? No. What's his name? Adon.
You're talking about, yeah.
Adon, excuse me, my bad. Adon. I was also using a lot in Street Fighter Alpha 3, because it was just like people weren't using those characters, and I was like, oh, I'll mess around with these guys, and people just didn't understand how to fight them. So I was like, cool. So I got like a leg up because our crew of friends weren't using them.
The competitive scene on Adon was pretty small. Yeah.
So there was those two. I actually
and Sota, just to cut in, Sota, like the problem when you're collecting fighting game action figure lines is usually like they do a couple of characters and then they get discontinued.
Yeah.
And then you go like, I know like people who collect Mortal Kombat have this problem.
Oof.
But Sota is one of those few companies that they have a pretty complete line of Street Fighter figures and multiple repaints.
Yeah.
Like the colors of the rainbow. So all your different championship edition or otherwise colors. So I always tell, if there's one company, if you really want to make a display of Street Fighter figures, I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff out there right now. Storm is doing some really good ones. SH Figure Art's doing it.
Yeah.
But if you want to have like all your Street Fighter Super, Turbo, whatever, right down to T-Hawk and DJ, go with Sota.
Yeah.
Sota is probably the best company to go for.
What else do I have here on my list? I actually, because Starlink was starting to get all cheap, I actually went all in and bought the ones I wanted. I actually made a list. I double checked everything. So
Ridiculously cheap.
Yeah. So Starlink is a video game. I think they're made by Ubisoft, and it's basically kind of like No Man's Sky meets Star Fox in a way, but a little bit better. There's a little bit more to do. The only downside of it is a bit repetitive from what I've heard, but it's part of that game's alive kind of mentality. But sadly, Toys to Life. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But sadly, right now, Ubisoft, they said we're not going to make any more toys. We're just going to do DLC. So if you want to get the new ships and the new guns and the new characters, you have to buy it. You have to buy it through DLC digitally. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to make toys for it specifically anymore. That's kind of disappointing. One of the positives is if you're looking to buy this game for the Switch, they have Star Fox. So if you buy the Star Fox bundle, you're literally buying a better Star Fox game than Star Fox Zero that came out for the Wii.
I agree.
Yeah,
and I'm a big Star Fox fan, and I bought that day one because I love Star Fox, and it was definitely better than Star Fox Zero. That's for sure.
So there's that on the video game front. I kind of lump these ones into comic book figures. So there's I have assortments of Marvel stuff, DC stuff, and I put G.I. Joe because usually it's all the same scale. So remember when they were doing was it Marvel Universe?
You're referring to the Marvel 3 1/4 line,
yeah,
which was the Marvel Universe figure line. I forget what the official name that we use for it now. They call it something else, but yeah, it was pretty much a 3 1/4 inch line. Yeah. Now pretty much we're back at that legend scale of 6 inch, yeah. But at one point they were doing a 3 1/4 inch line.
And those I really dug because I used to play with G.I. Joe when I was a kid, and then years later there's I'm hanging out with people that are still into G.I. Joe, and I'm looking at the newer figures. I'm like, whoa, they got really articulated and they're built very well. And then these the line of Marvel and DC 3 1/4 are that level of quality, and they're that articulated, and I was like, these are really cool. I wouldn't mind having what's his name, a War Machine, because I'm a big War Machine fan. There was also, what's his name, Death Adder.
Well, they did all of that because they did the Marvel line, and then of course whenever they did a movie, the movies would also get a 3 1/4 inch line of the same scale, same quality, but related. So War Machine, that's all the Iron Man armor. All of those they did. Oh my God, what's the name? Crimson Dynamo. Mm-hmm. They did all of the villains and stuff from the Iron Man side of things, not just movie characters, but non-movie characters too, and comic book villains. Mm-hmm. And it was just, those were incredible. Yeah. Those were, oh my God, I have a whole bunch of those.
I really dig them because they don't take up that much space, and you can they're just portable, and you could use them as little desk formers kind of thing. So that's one thing I really like about that, and also the Mega Box minifigs. You could a little desk toys that you could bring around and stuff like that.
Big collection, small size.
Yeah, exactly. And
I always dig that.
The last thing I have from I'm just looking around my room for what I remember having. Gundams. So I kind of, as I got more into Gundams, I kind of focused more on the 1/100 scale, because and specifically the master grade, so that they'll have the skeleton on the inside.
Yeah.
Because I like that little detail to it. That's always fun to look at and mess around with. So those are the ones I haven't built anything recently in a long while. I still have a few that I still need to build. But yeah, the 1/100 ones are the ones I dig, but I know right now they're not really big on 1/100s. They're leaning more into 1/144, and even those I think have master grade versions. They have skeletons and stuff, and they're just way smaller.
1/144s now have kind of the engineering from, me and Jaws D were building kits, man, in 96, 97, 90, the early years.
Yeah.
And so now 1/144s have kind of reached that master grade level of engineering, and I forget what they're called. I think they're called real grades now.
Yeah.
I think that's the term, RG. Mm-hmm. And so now you could get a GM, and you're actually building the exoskeleton before you're putting the exterior armor pieces on, where before with, let's say, a traditional high grade 1/144, you're just kind of just building
endoskeleton. If I have to be all nerdy about it.
Yeah, it's
it's
true.
the inner part.
But yeah, so now they've reached that level, and it's pretty cool. Actually, was our last big anime convention. Well, I mean big. We have a huge one here in Montreal called Otakuthon. I actually competed in the World Gundam building competition. Obviously, I didn't place it all, but they needed people to represent Canada, so I brought some of my old builds from back in the day, which were not up to snuff. It's I was 14 when I did this.
Oh, no.
Now I'm 35, so let's just say it's unfair, but whatever. You guys needed some represent, so pull out the old man. He'll tell you kids about back in the day when I did my char custom. But anyways, Yeah.
But yeah.
Anything else?
Nope. I think that's everything toy wise.
I forgot to mention one more toy line, but it kind of falls into the video game category. I've been trying to hunt down a lot of Primal Rage figures.
Oh man, you're so weird.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's right now. There's a lot of weird '90s toy lines that I'm just trying to complete. Like I love short run, like one wave, maybe 1.5 wave or 2 wave '90s toy lines. I love those because they're easy to collect. They're iconic because they always have like really cool or iconic characters related to them. And they're I don't know, there's so much character to some of them. Like they did like a Double Dragon toy line. Tyco, of all things, the RC company, did a Double Dragon toy line, and I'm slowly trying to get those. And again, they're not rare, they're not expensive, but they're just something that's like, every time I go to a flea market, I know I'm gonna find them or something.
Right.
So it's like, I love collecting those kind of stuff. And it's just like David Cabal, who even asked the question for this Patreon. We met him in person, and like he brought me one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like the late 90s, well, the mid to late 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Troll doll ones. Because those are like the weird stuff. Like, like that's definitely in my collection now, sitting proudly. Like I love.
Because I remember Stone Protectors.
Oh,
I remember the precursor. Do you remember the precursor to Stone Protectors? Where it was
you had Battle Trolls.
Yeah, well it was the trolls that looked like, it was like there was one that looked like Terminator, so like half his face was like the robot and the other half was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like the leather jacket and everything.
I know what you're
like they were actual
to.
troll dolls, but they are like stylized, and then the Stone Protectors came out after that.
There was quite a few. There was one that was clearly a parody of like you mentioned, like Terminator. I think they were called Street Trolls. I could be wrong. And then they did Battle Trolls, which was another one that was similar to that. And then Stone Protectors came along. And the funny thing is, I have a guest room in my house. In my guest room, I have like a near complete wave 1 of Stone Protectors on display. Like I have a very weird selection of stuff that I like collect.
Yeah.
If it's a weird 90s toy line, I probably have something of it. And I'm probably trying to complete it in some shape or form.
I can't believe you're trying to complete that. That just blows.
You know what it
mind.
is? It's because it's like I've pretty much gotten everything and anything I could in terms of vintage Transformers and a lot of other stuff. So usually when I go to cons, I kind of go like, what from my childhood that I really enjoyed that I would have liked to get that I never got.
Right.
And as a kid, I used to, like, I didn't have a lot of money as a kid, so I used to do a lot of window shopping. And it's just like, you see Stone Protectors, you go to a con and there they are for like $1 each, and you go, why not? Like one of my, like, I guess we'll call it my white whales that I recently found was, as a kid, I always wanted to own. If anyone who remembers Micro Machines back in the day, they used to do the Power of the Force Star Wars play sets. They used to do these and they were like, it was like the head of the character and it would open up and it would be a scene from the movie or something. Right. And as a kid, I always wanted to have the C-3PO play set because it was the cantina scene from A New Hope, Episode 4.
Okay.
And I always wanted to get it, never could find it. And then finally, I'm doing one of my toy shows, and some guy had it mint in box, and he had it for like nothing. And I was like, oh my God. And I was so happy to get that. It's actually, if you go on my Instagram, I took like really nice photos of it and I populated it with all the people from the cantina because I was just so happy to have that. Like, even like, again, I have like a small little Star Wars collection. Star Wars is more focused. It's more, I like specific characters and stuff. Because if you get into Star Wars,
yeah, you're down the rabbit hole there.
Yeah, you think Transformers is crazy. Star Wars is a whole other animal. But I mean, that's why I kind of like small 90s toy lines, because there's less investment. There's, they don't take a lot of space. And, something like Biker Mice is cool. It's iconic. Yeah. Same thing like Street Sharks or Botsmaster. They're so cool, and they're simple toys, and they're just fun. And to me, I like creating like a little shrine to, I was born in 83, so I was a late 80s, early 90s kid. And so a lot of that stuff is my childhood. Again, like Transformers to me started with 1986 with the movie.
Yeah.
So and everything afterwards and that thing too. Like I was an Atari 2600 kid going into Nintendo, so that was my era. Collecting video game merchandise was because I got my very first like Q*bert like little figure along with Super Mario, and I was just like, oh my god, I want to have everything of these, and that never stopped. So like I would, there's a great video online of my father's collection that I posted, and it gives you an idea of where the insanity comes from.
Yeah.
Because he's the same way. Everything he collects is his childhood, and he's trying to create a shrine to that. And I kind of emulate the same thing.
Okay.
Where I'm just kind of like going like, you know what? I just like having a shrine to everything of my childhood. And then that's where it falls into like the video game merchandising, where it's advertising, posters, that kind of stuff. I just love having that, like just old ads from the 90s magazines, like stuff like that is so cool.
Yeah, a lot of people are like documenting that now, basically.
Oh, I love that stuff. I love that stuff because it brings back nostalgic memories of reading EGM and Game Pro and Nintendo Power and seeing like, an ad for World Heroes from SNK.
Oh God, yeah.
Like just stuff like that. I love that stuff. But anyways, like we went down this rabbit hole enough. It's probably going to be a long segment, but thanks David Cabal. Another awesome Patreon listener question. Hope that answers that. And I hope people enjoyed this little trip down memory lane. If there was anything you guys collected that was outside of Transformers, be sure to comment and let us know too.